Hi, good afternoon. So, היום אני מדבר באנגלית, okay? Okay?
The class is in English, Jeff.
Oh, good, good, good. So, I'm from New York, and during my life, I've had the opportunity to make investments in many startups. And I understand that you're working on some pretend or real startups, and I came here to listen to your ideas. And I have to say that there's no idea that's a bad idea. To have the courage to actually put something together, that's the opportunity to be creative. And as long as you believe in what you're saying, and you're not just saying something to take the airtime, I encourage you today to share your ideas. I don't need a PowerPoint deck. I don't need anything. I don't need to see a business plan. I certainly don't give a damn about MVP. What I care about is who's on the team and why you think you guys are going to make amazing success with whatever it is you're trying to do. I've been fortunate to invest and try my luck with over 400 startups. And every time I make an investment, I always think they're the ones that are going to make it big. So it's not really try my luck as much as try my time and how much time it's going to take to make that happen. But I believe my father taught me a number of things as an entrepreneur and as a kid, really. But one of the things I always remind myself is that the best gift you can give someone is to believe in them. And that if you find something that truly you believe in and find someone else to believe in you, sometimes that's all you need. A lot of the investments I made in Israel amongst young entrepreneurs, I was the person in many ways, I was the co-founder, just silent. I gave them the money so people could actually pay for something. It was never enough money to really start a company, but some did. And some went on to great success. I mean, any of you here, are there any musicians in the room? Only a few. Well, and if you're shy, it's okay. But I look at startups like rock bands. And I used to have a record label. And I can tell you that when I see bands, when I was used to trying to sign bands to my label, I always looked to see who the lead singer was. Now, I didn't care whether or not the lead singer could play an instrument or not, but they had to have stage presence. They had to command their room when they walked in. The stage is theirs. I was usually curious who the drummer was. Almost every band except the singer-songwriter, everyone that we signed, there was a drummer, and that person made sure things were organized. And depending upon the types of bands, we had bass players, we had guitars, we had keyboard, one had a sax, and it all created different sounds. And what I was really curious about these bands, when I was listening to them, is did they play cover songs, or did they have original music? And when you look at a startup, are you trying to copy are you copying somebody else, or is it an original idea? You know, when I worked in the music people, I wanted to know what genre of music were they doing, or were they breaking through and creating a new genre? Same thing with startups. You know, what field are you in? Are you doing something absolutely creative that we haven't heard of yet, but tomorrow you're very famous for doing it, or it's the same old, same old? And really, the other thing about bands, which I learned a life lesson about, is it's nice for them to have fans, because fans actually buy records, or buy CDs, or buy streams. And it also helps with the viral marketing, that if you have fans for your band, then when you go out and play a show, people show up. And if you are a startup and people are your fans, sometimes you get funding. And sometimes when people start talking about you online, about what you're doing, it creates a buzz, which is pretty amazing. And I think there's a lot of real value between startups and bands in terms of the origins of it. And for me, the CEO of the company, that's the lead singer. I don't care whether or not the person can write code or not, but most startups, people do know how to write code. And of course, the drummer is the chief operating officer, the person responsible for keeping the beat. So I usually try to figure out who's the COO, who's the CEO. Now, I've run across geniuses here in Israel who have great ideas, but have no ability to write code whatsoever. And after investing in a few companies like that, I learned my life lesson, never to do that again. Because whenever these really smart people took their ideas and went to a company to prototype it, what they ended up with was code which was useless. I mean, it was useful to prototype and share a vision, but it was old. It was not able to be maintained, and it was really stuck. And I always felt that I wasted the money because I knew they were smart people, and they were just paying someone else to show their vision. So I look for people, I look for teams that can write code, that are dynamic. Also, and this is just really more of a presentation set, is that if I'm sitting down with somebody to pitch me their company, even if their company's made a company video, a 30-second, 90-second, 20-second, don't show me your video. You're the founder of the company. I should hear you in your voice what this company is about. What I care about is what your inspiration was to create the company. And I don't care about business models. I think that's bullshit. We eventually probably want to make a profit. I'm not suggesting that you do things not for profit, but I think the burden of having to figure out who you are and at the same time what you are and what you're going to be is really hard. Almost every company in the world that is super successful today wasn't doing what they set out to do back then. They pivoted, they changed. So when I look for these startups, I look for people that are not so focused on their numbers. I mean, I cannot tell you how often people say, well, let's look at the projections. And I'm saying, wait a second. This is exactly what you want to do? Now, that's nice, but unless you are a sorcerer and you absolutely know the future, every time you do a projection with a business plan, it's a lie. For some people, it's really an intelligence test. People who are saying to you, I want to see your business plan. They're either really telling you, I'm not interested in investing, and they're just prolonging the agony, or they want to see if you're smart. But none of them are asking you to explain what about this, what does it mean to you? How does this affect your life? How are you connected into this? And so having a business plan is nice if it helps get you over the hump. It's really useful to show direction. But Google took 2 years plus to figure out how to make money from a search engine. Almost every major company. I mean, look, if we were living in the 60s and someone wants to invent email, and there's some people saying, what's the business model for email? The internet may not have happened because there was no apparent business model for email when email was invented. So the opportunity here, the opportunity really is to go against the grain and be passionate with what you believe in and be strong. And when people are trying to pitch me their startups, if I give them a 20-minute meeting with me or a 30-minute meeting over Hafuch, I make a decision within 3 minutes, and the team has 27 minutes to convince me why I should not make an investment. Because if I'm going to sit down with someone, it means I see something, a spark of a sparkle, magic. And I'm not looking to tell the people what to do. I mean, while there are a few people in this world which I actually work closely with, I'm not a fan of advice, of sharing it. Because unless I have the ability to somehow magically get inside your body and have your life experiences and actually understand your desires and understand your value system, me telling you what to do is a waste of your time. Because there's no way I possibly could tell you meaningful, heartfelt advice for you. And if you ask me how I would do it, you're not me. And so I appreciate if you need medical advice, if you need legal advice, if you need advice of a specialist, go find it. But you are the CEO of your life. And this is the thing. I mean, some of you, how many people here want to do a startup in real life? And the rest of you want to work for someone? I advise you figure out real quickly whether or not you're employable or not. I happen to be highly unemployable. That means that I don't do well working for someone else. I tolerate it. My entire adult life, I think I worked for 3 people. That was it. Soulful independence is something which when you realize that you are different, that you have a voice, and you really need to, not necessarily get things your way, but be your leader, be it. And for all of you who don't want to do a startup, at least be the CEO of your life. I mean, there's some things you can control, some things you can't. But take responsibility for who you are and what you do so that you can't blame it on someone else for your success or not success. That you are the one responsible for figuring out how these dots get connected. Because in the end, I'm a firm believer in things like serendipity and synchronicity. I'm a firm believer of bringing people together and seeing what magic can happen. I don't know how many people in this room live by intuition, who have gut feelings about things, but I think there's a lot to be said about allowing your intuition to guide you. Some people can get the right answer on a multiple choice test, but they always come back and scratch it out and do something else, and then it's wrong. For some reason, there was magic, they got the answer, and they scrambled and went the other way. The intuition that you were born with can give you guidance to help your startup succeed and inspire you and others around you. Anyway, and when you're pitching someone, and this is just the last thing before I end, and I will take questions before I do the pitch maybe, is that try not to change your presentation every time you meet somebody new. Because occasionally investors talk to each other. So if you know that I like the color purple, and then I'm into this and this, and all of a sudden I see a purple presentation deck, one after the other, I get a little suspicious. And when people start like doing things, because then I would actually watch the same person at a startup competition, or the other investors have different decks, depending upon their perceived understanding of who they're talking to. I mean, know your audience is very important, but don't change your story simply put between us, because we talk. So having the confidence of who you are, and by the way, understand one last thing, and that you're probably right. You are working on an amazing fucking idea. But not everyone you talk to is going to get you. Because if they did, they'd be doing it. So have the confidence that you actually are onto something amazing, but understand that amazing is that wow, that only comes into vogue after other people buy into it, and maybe not your best friend, maybe not your family, now maybe not your spouse, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your partner. If you believe in it, it is great. But to have the confidence to allow that to be, and at the same time be yourself, really hard. Really hard. But if you could figure that out, you could run any company in the world. It's just understanding and having the confidence to breathe into your success and to be focused so that you allow yourself to figure out what it is you're going to say. So I'm Jeff Pulver. I'm happy to ask questions before we do the pitches. What? Any questions?